Now that you're adulting, transportation is probably going to be another big expense. When you have a full-time job, perhaps a family, you may no longer be able to get by with borrowing a car, driving a beater, or walking everywhere. But those individual choices are different for everyone. When you think about transportation, you can probably list off several options. You may decide to buy a new car or to lease one. If you buy a new car, you'll usually need to provide a down payment, pass a credit check, and get a loan to pay for some part of the car's price. After you complete the payments, usually over the course of 4 to 6 years of monthly payments, the car is yours. If you lease one, you also pay some amount up front, but you have the car for a shorter period of time, and when the lease is up, you can simply return it. There may be restrictions on the total miles you can drive or the condition of the car at the time of return, but it is not generally expected that you'll pay it off and keep it. Another way to own a vehicle is to consider a used car purchase. You would buy a car from an individual or a dealership that has already been owned by at least one person. While this can be a substantial savings over buying a new car, you're also getting a car that already has some miles and wear and tear on it, and may have mechanical defects that are not obvious to you and are no longer covered under any manufacturer's warranty. You may decide not to own a car at all, either because it's not financially feasible or it's not helpful to you to do so. If you live in an area with good public transportation, buses, ferries, trains, and the like, it may make more sense for you to purchase a monthly public transport pass and not have the expense of upkeep and insurance, as well as the main expense of buying or leasing the vehicle itself. You could also opt for ride shares. This could be as informal as a carpool in which you commute with a friend or coworker and pay them for some gas, or utilizing services like Uber, Lyft, or taxis to get around when you need to. Of course, depending on where you live and work, you may even have the option to walk or bike to work regularly. So how do you know what's right for you? First, what are the costs involved with your transportation options, and what can you truly afford in your budget? If your budget is tight and you buy a car, you are obligated to that car payment and may not be able to sell the car if you're in a pinch. So you should count on having that payment each and every month for the term of the loan. While a monthly public transit pass may be far less expensive than a car payment, there could be convenience factors to consider. If you need to make a grocery run in the pouring rain, having a car is nice. Weighing convenience against cost is always challenging, but both factors do need to be considered in your decision. Having kids may make it even more important to you to have a car so that you can more easily get them to and from daycare, school, or doctor's appointments without navigating buses or trains. Reliability is another thing to think about. If you want to buy a car and can't afford a new vehicle, you may have reliability issues with your car. If it needs to go to the shop and you're tapping into your emergency fund, plus you still have to find a way to get to work, that can be a challenge. Public transport, on the other hand, is generally very reliable, but may be inconvenient, and in some areas may even be non-existent. There are other expenses to consider. If you own or lease a car, you'll need to insure it, pay for gas and perhaps maintenance, find a place to park it. Depending on where you live and work, that may mean you incur daily or monthly parking fees or that you need to pay more for a parking space or garage. If you decide not to have a car, but to rely primarily on public or other transportation, you'll likely save some money, but may find that you do need to rent a car from time to time for trips or errands that can't be completed on the bus or in an Uber. Finally, think about your commuting and any other travel you might want to do occasionally. As noted a moment ago, if you opt to be a public transport commuter, but love to get away for the weekend, how much would it cost you to rent a car for those trips? Would it be cheaper in the long run to own or lease a car? But if you do, would you still choose to commute by public transport to save time and hassle? Before we go, let's cover a few key terms. Public transportation is any transportation that is locally or regionally operated and available to members of the public. This may be buses, trains, streetcars, or ferries. You can usually pay per ride, but there's often a substantial savings for regular commuters who buy a weekly or monthly pass for unlimited rides. Some employers even offer to subsidize this. Depreciation is defined as the reduction in value of an asset with the passage of time, due in particular to wear and tear. While homes can depreciate, this is much more applicable to cars. While a well-built home could theoretically last hundreds of years, and even a poorly built one may last for decades, cars are not designed to last that long. Plus, new and improved safety features being offered in more recent models can devalue an old car even further. When you buy a home, it certainly may appreciate in value, but when you buy a car, it will almost certainly depreciate significantly over several years. A warranty is a policy that pays to fix certain parts of a car if it breaks. It may cover just the major mechanical parts of the car, like the engine or transmission, or it may be a bumper-to-bumper warranty covering all parts of the car from defect. This is usually enforced on a new car for a certain number of years or miles driven. Used cars, if they come with a warranty, will generally have a much shorter coverage period. The resale value is the value of a car if you were to trade or resell it. As noted a moment ago, cars do depreciate, so a $20,000 car you buy today is not likely to ever again have a resale value as high as what you've paid for it. Finally, there's total cost of ownership. When you buy a car, whether you're paying for it in cash or making payments, you will need to consider the total cost of ownership, and that can vary by vehicle. In 2017, for cars driven 15,000 miles a year, average ownership costs added up to $8,469 a year. That did not factor in car payments, but did include the interest on car payments. It also includes things like insurance, gas, repairs and maintenance, registration, taxes, and fees. All the things that you must pay to regularly drive the car, keep it in good condition, and have it licensed. Now that you're armed with the key concepts, options, and terminology, you know what should be part of your decision process around the types of transportation you need for yourself and those in your family or household, as well as what you can truly afford. Let's finish up the lesson with a quick knowledge check